Hey everyone and welcome. Today, we are opening up the manager's playbook to talk about one of the most critical skills out there, control. Now, I know what you're thinking. The word control sounds a little intense, right? A bit rigid. But trust me, this isn't about micromanaging or being a tyrant. It's about having the skill to guide your projects and your team straight to a big win. So, let's get into it.
Think about it. You've got this brilliant plan. You've spent weeks, maybe months, putting it together. The goals are set. The team is fired up. But then, life happens. The real world kicks in. So how do you make sure that that amazing plan you started with doesn't completely fall apart? That's the big question we're going to tackle today.
And here's how we're going to do it. This is our roadmap. First, we'll talk about the manager's steering wheel, what control really means. Then, we'll break down the 3 core plays: measuring performance, comparing it to the standard, and then taking action. After that, we'll look at the big picture and finish up with some pro-level strategies to really take your skills to the next level.
All right, first up, the manager's steering wheel. I love this metaphor. Imagine you're on a long road trip. Your plan is the map, right? It tells you where you want to go. But control controls your hands on the steering wheel. It's all those tiny, constant adjustments you make to stay in your lane, to dodge a pothole, and to make sure you actually end up at your destination.
So here's the official definition. But let's just boil it down to 3 simple words. First, you monitor. You just watch what's going on. Then you compare. You check what's actually happening against what you plan to happen. And finally, you correct. You step in and make an adjustment to close that gap. Monitor, compare, correct. That's the whole game right there.
And you know what's so important to see here is that controlling isn't just some random task. It's the critical final piece of the management puzzle. Think about it. You plan, you organize your team, you lead them, but controlling is the feedback loop that ties it all back together. It's the moment you get to ask, so did all that work we did actually work? And that process looks just like this. It's not a straight line, it's a loop. A simple but incredibly powerful 3-step loop that just keeps going. You measure, you compare, you act, and you start all over again. It's this constant cycle of refinement. So let's break down each of these steps, starting with play number 1.
Okay, play number 1 is simple. Get the stats. You've probably heard the saying, you can't manage what you don't measure. And it is absolutely true. Before you can do anything else, you just need the data. You need an honest, clear picture of what's really going on.
But that's the tricky part, right? How do you actually get that data? Do you just walk around and watch people? Do you bury yourself in spreadsheets? Do you rely on those quick hallway conversations? Well, the truth is, there's no single best way.
The best managers, they're like detectives. They know you can't rely on just one source of information. Walking around and observing, that gives you that gut feeling, that unfiltered view. But statistical reports give you the cold, hard facts. Talking to people is fast, but written reports give you the details. The real skill is blending all of these together to get a complete 360-degree view of reality.
All right, so you've gathered your stats. Now it's time for play number 2. Check the scoreboard. This is the moment of truth. You take the data about what's actually happening and you hold it up against the goal you set way back at the beginning. Now, this is a really important point. The goal is not perfection. Your performance is never going to be a perfect flat line. That's just not realistic. The real art is in defining an acceptable range. You see that green zone? As long as you're in there, you're good. It's your job as a manager to decide how much things can fluctuate before you need to sound the alarm. Let's make this real with a quick example. Take a look at Green Earth Gardening Supply. See vegetable plants? They were shooting for 1,075, but only hit 913. That's a variance of negative 162. Whoa. Okay, as a manager, that's a red flag. I need to figure out what happened there. But now look at perennial flowers. They were over by just 4. Is that worth my time? Nope, that's just noise. I'd be much more interested in finding out why heirloom seeds did so well. This chart tells you exactly where to focus your energy.
And that leads us right into the final, and let's be honest, the most important play in the whole process. You have the data, you've compared it, and now you have to make the call. So, what are you going to do?
And really, you've only got 3 choices on your decision tree. First, and sometimes this is the hardest one, is to do nothing. If the variance is tiny, like those perennial flowers, sometimes the best move is no move, don't meddle. The second option is to correct the performance. And the third option, which takes some guts, is to revise the standard itself. Maybe you realize your original goal was just completely unrealistic from the start.
So if you decide you do need to correct performance, you have another choice. Are you going for the immediate fix or the basic fix? Think of it this way. The immediate action is like putting a Band-Aid on a cut. It stops the bleeding right now. The basic action is like figuring out why you got cut in the first place and fixing that, so it never happens again. One's a quick fix, the other is a real solution.
This flowchart might look a little complicated, but it's actually just mapping out that thought process. Let's trace it. You compare performance to your goal. Is there a difference? Yes. Okay, next question. Is that difference acceptable? No. Okay, well, is the original standard even achievable? If it is, then you go and correct the performance. It's a logical path that stops you from jumping to the wrong conclusion.
So we've gone through the 3 plays: measure, compare, and act. But let's zoom out for a second. Why are we doing all this? What's the point? Well, we're trying to win the championship game, and that's all about achieving great organizational performance.
And performance isn't just some vague buzzword. It's really made up of 2 key ingredients. You've got productivity, that's about being efficient, doing things right. But you also need effectiveness, which is about doing the right things in the first place. You could be super productive at a task that doesn't even matter. Good control helps you nail both.
And when you get it right, this is what it feels like. A manager who has mastered control isn't some dictator shouting orders. They're more like a conductor of an orchestra, guiding the entire team, making sure everyone is playing their part, and turning a plan on a piece of paper into a beautiful result.
Okay, so you've got the fundamentals down. You're ready to level up. Let's talk about a few advanced strategies. These are the moves that separate the really great managers from the merely good ones.
So a lot of what we've talked about is feedback control, looking at results after they happen. But the best managers operate on all 3 of these timelines. Feed-forward control is about anticipating problems before they even start. Concurrent control is making adjustments as things are happening. Great managers use a mix of all 3.
Here's another powerhouse tool for you: benchmarking. I love this one. It's basically the art of looking around and asking who is absolutely crushing it in this area and what can we learn from them. It's about finding the best practices out there so you don't have to reinvent the wheel. And you know what? You don't always have to look outside your own company. Often, your top performers are sitting right down the hall. You can benchmark internally. Find out what that top sales team is doing, document it, reward them for it, and then share that secret sauce with everybody else. It creates this amazing cycle of constant improvement. So let's wrap this all up. If there's one thing you take away today, I hope it's this. Control isn't about power. It's about progress. It's the tool you use to keep your promises and turn your goals into reality. So I'll leave you with a final thought. Think about your own world. Right now, what's one goal, big or small, that you could get back on track using this simple loop of measure, compare, and correct?